blessing or curse, or blessing and curse. The definition of comfort is a state of physical ease and freedom from pain and constraint. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is this very narrow bandwidth of comfort. We call it the comfort zone. We all find comfort in all these different layers. There's comfort in taking communion or going to Mass. I know people who can be very upset and they go to Mass with the rosary and they come out of it and they are comforted. Church, the comfort of being filled with wonder from watching kids or pets, or just hanging out in nature and watching it flit around you. There are all these layers, but today I want to talk about the comfort zone. This place Facebook and therapists both agree, from Freud to Jung, they tell us to get out of our comfort zone. And as Jung intoned, if you don't get out of your comfort zone, the relationship between your psyche and the world is going to probably create some event that's going to force it. My friends, it's interesting how comfort works. I've had a great reflection this week on my own life, and I have to say there's going to be some confession in my my statement here. You see, I live a fairly comfortable life. All my needs are met. There's no need for me to do anything outside the bubble of my own comfort zone. I mean, I'm sitting in my studio. I've got everything here for music, for podcasts, for all kinds of stuff. I got a great TV. We got cable. The comfort zone is that place where the mind and soul can relax and feel free. And believe me, in my retirement, I'm starting to feel that. This zone is different from person to person. Some are more relaxed with certain sets of friends or certain contexts. Some enjoy their own company more than hanging with anybody, so they hang with themselves. And many, well, there's probably as many iterations of comfort zones as there are human beings. And let's face it, here in the West, we live in a world of entertainment distractions that make it easy to not just hang in our own comfort zones. Not just hang. I should say to just hang. Yet real life, growing life, is stilted and becomes ingrown, like an ingrown hair or an ingrown toenail, if you will, using a gross analogy. And this is when it becomes a curse. As one author wrote, as our comfort zones can give an almost ultimate soul satisfaction and peace of mind, its major con is that it actually does not benefit you as a person who should evolve as the world around you is progressing every minute. Unquote. In my mind, a number of authors that I consulted, each of us has interests in soul discovering that can only be done aside from the overwhelming responsibilities of our daily life. And not just that, but the overwhelming gravity of our comfort zone. In short, staying inside your comfort zone is not going to help you grow. As one writer said, it will leave you standing on the same stair while everything around you are moving forward. So, for me, I have to say I love my comfort zone. And I'm always trying to expand it with new friends, new experiences, new music, and travel. And I have to say I really hate travel, but I do it. Mostly because my wife wants to go, and I go, yeah, I'll go. And when I get to where I'm traveling, I have a great time. It's just the traveling that drives me nuts. It's so outside my comfort zone. But we got some trips planned, so who knows? As an old retired guy, it is so much easier to just hang here in my comfort zone. I mean, seriously, I look around in that David Byrne song, This Is Not My Beautiful House, comes to mind over and over. I go, how did I get, I didn't plan any of this. I could just hang here. I read. I got great books. I watch TV, do these podcasts. I can make music by myself. I can play all the parts myself. I don't need anybody else. I love cooking. I just cook. And I make excuses for hanging here than to move out of it. Because this most comfortable place I've made for myself, when I step out of it, it just, the world seems alien sometimes. But I know too much. And this has been a curse for me and a blessing as well. Because for me, there's only one game in town, and that is growing. If you are not growing, you are, well, you may be just dying. Although I have to say, I've hung with quite a few dying people, and they're probably the most growing people I've ever met. I guess dying is not in your comfort zone, so it forces you to start thinking different. So maybe that's where the paradox kisses its ass on this one, Maybe waking up to the fact that hanging in our comfort zones is just another way of dying, and dying is a clear way to get out of our comfort zones and grow. Or maybe our comfort zones just blind us to seeing what's really happening. I really can't say that I know this. This is part of my ruminations to get my own butt moving. And as a pastor, I will have to say I've visited a lot of people in retirement and nursing homes. And I can say with great authority that those people with projects that challenge them, that get them outside their comfort zones, they lived fuller, happier, and longer lives. Finally, I just want to say, I really love my comfort zone. I don't take it for granted. As a retired guy, I worked hard to create this space, yet it is not enough. I know where health and wholeness are and what leads to it. It takes effort. And the first gate in my life has always been my own laziness and the excuses I can make to myself to not take a step into discomfort. Now, I'll say that we read stuff and some of it sticks with us. And the teachings of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda stuck with me. And I read everything Castaneda wrote after that. But the teachings of Don Juan laid out the 4 enemies. And I faced them all. And I'm facing one now. Fear. Fear sucks. But it can be easily overcome with a fortitude of courage of moving outside one's comfort zone. Clarity to me was the most difficult, because I put together a picture of the world and it worked so well. And I realized that we have to have at least a dozen pictures of the world in our pocket. Power, I learned early I wanted nothing to do with it. 1, I don't think I could handle it. And 2, I didn't want it. And then old age. And Don Juan really speaks to old age and what it does. He talks about it takes will. And I have to say, my dad, although we've had our differences, he had one of the most amazing wills I've ever seen. He was smoking 2 packs of Camels a day, came home, said to my mom, they learned that smoking is not good. I've already had 3 heart attacks, so they told me I shouldn't smoke anymore. He went to his closet, got 3 cartons of Camels, and he said, Marge, that's my mom, do you want these? And she goes, oh, no, I won't smoke those. She smoked Viceroys. So he threw them away, never smoked another cigarette. And I go, wow, no, that's will. When he went into an old people's home, he took the hospice class, he took the Alzheimer's class, and every day he made the rounds. He touched people. Believe me, it was outside his comfort zone. He had a cool place. He could have just sat there. Comfort zone, it makes it difficult. It's not easy. Life's journey is to reach beyond who we are and to grow into new and fresh creatures of expression, to express our deepest dharma, our deepest truths of self. I think this is what the psyche wants. Matter of fact, my experience shows this is what psyche wants. And yet, there is so much force to keep me here. Over and over, I see these Venn diagrams on Facebook, and they show where your comfort zone is and where life is, and rarely do they overlap. So comfort zone, I think it's a challenge, especially in our society. When I was in the middle of my stuff, it was very difficult to work, 8-10 hours a day, and then come home and not want to just relax in my comfort zone. And yet something pushed me, and it was my will. It was all of that stuff that gave me assurance at a deeper level that moving out into the world is going to cause me to grow. So this is a hard one for me. Again, there's some real confession in there. And yet, I believe in the will. I believe in the new. I believe in the creative. And I don't just believe in them, but I've seen them in me, and I've seen them in so many people, that it's just a matter of getting the fire going and daring to inflame the passions we had when we were young. Because sometimes those passions can beat the hell out of us, and we feel defeated. So that's my point of view. I'm going to let Marianne have the first response. I'm here with Marianne Rudis from Spokane Valley. Bob Hayes is coming to us all the way transcontinentally in Florida. So Marianne, this place, this comfort zone, I think for Americans, it's a real challenge.
Well, I agree. It is a challenge. And there's a part of me that has never been able to really find that place of comfort, because, and it's funny because all week long, a song lyric has been running through my head from the Grateful Dead. And it's, when life looks like easy street, there's danger at your door. And I can relate to that so well. And so it's always been difficult for me to relax into a comfortable place, because I was always waiting for that other shoe to drop. I was looking for that danger coming to my door. And it's only been in the last couple of years where I've been trying to alter that and to say, no, you appreciate what you have. Appreciate that right now you do have a great deal of comfort, and it's going to change. And we all know that it's going to change. And I think you talked about this in your opening, where if you don't willingly go out and grow, life is going to give you those moments where you will. And so, but there's also a part of me, especially as I get older, where I think, okay, can't I hit a certain point where I'm done growing for this lifetime? And can I just kind of relax and skate through the rest of it? And, I write as well. And I find myself wanting to kind of pull back from that. And yet I just joined another writing class where we're workshopping some work. And that's stepping out of my comfort zone. And I'm forcing myself to do that because I want to create. I want to do that. I want to put something out. The local bookstore is going to take my Dearbury Parent Journal on consignment. Again, it's stepping out of my comfort zone to actually go, okay, I'm going to put this out there. I don't know what's going to happen with it, probably nothing, but that's okay. It's those acts of doing something that makes you uncomfortable, I think, and it does help us grow. And so I'm in this continual mode of growth, but I'm also trying to appreciate the fact that for everything I do have to bring me comfort.
And, I think you said it, our own expressions, and we dare to do that, creates a discomfort. And I'm going to suggest one other thing for you, Marianne. Put it on Amazon.
Oh, it is on Amazon.
Oh, good, because I can pitch it there.
Yep.
Also, what you said made me realize the Grateful Dead had some sense of Carl Jung, because that's pretty much what he says. Our self is is not done. And that's a hard one. I'd like to just sit. There's so much good stuff to read and watch on TV, and new recipes to pursue. So, Bob, what say you on all this?
Well, it's interesting at this stage of my life. Much like you, I'm retired. I've been retired for a number of years now, and I over the years I looked at my little homestead here as like a Zen garden, and I would spend my time moving a plant or finding a new plant to fit in a certain spot, or sometimes a new plant would just appear, and I didn't know where it came from. It just came in on the breeze, and suddenly it was growing there, and trying to decide what to do with it. So my comfort zone has been largely encompassed in my home and my yard and all this kind of stuff. And now I'm finding an interesting thing as I get to an age where I can't do the things that I've done in the past. And leaving my comfort zone is pulling back from those things. And it's very, very difficult. And it's something that I'm finding maybe one of the most challenging things of my life is letting go of the things that I love to do and realizing that I have to change my approach to things. And again, looking back on my life, I think that, again, the things that I accomplished were all largely due to moving outside my comfort zone. And I'm happy that happened. And I firmly agree with what you're saying. The self never rests. The self is evolving throughout our lifetimes. But our comfort zones also are evolving and changing on a daily, if not an hourly basis. And a lot of it is how we define it ourselves and what we do with it. So, I firmly agree for anyone who is interested in evolving and becoming more in tune with the world, that they need to step out of their comfort zones. And sometimes stepping out of a comfort zone, in my case, is letting go of things that we don't want to let go of.
Yeah, and there's willed stepping out, and there's natural stepping out. And I see what you're talking about is a natural progression. They say getting old isn't for sissies, and it's precisely that. I had a parishioner, and I think I've shared this story before. He told me when he couldn't hook up his boat anymore, he was ready to die, and he did. And that letting go is a natural progression of discomfort. There's no doubt about that. However, there is a willful confrontation, and this is my Don Juan's interpretation of old age being the enemy, that those things cannot be it. That in my mind, what has to be it has to do with our taking an intentional stand with psyche, with ourselves, with our dharma, and what does it want to do? What have we been doing all our lives? I mean, for me, Bob, this week, what came back over and over is all the times we got how many carloads of people to go to a protest, and we turned these unbelievable political protests into these delightful parties with 100,000 people. And that passion, how do we pull on that thread, and what does that expression? Because I think, the body gets older, the mind gets older, but the soul, I don't believe, gets past 19 or 20. And I think that that's the piece that to me has called my attention and my reflection of what is it that I care about, and of course my music, my stories, those are things. Bob, I've seen, I've read some of your writings. You got a penchant for writing, and you were as pissed off as I was back then. So for me is what's our willful way of stepping out of our comfort zone? Because to me, one woman said, I was working with her on a project. She said, well, I have a cross to bear that I'm bearing. And I went, what is it? She says, my husband is getting dementia. And I said, well, did you choose that? And she went, no. And I said, well, that's just life. That's not a cross you've picked up. This is about picking up a cross. Picking up something that makes you discomfortable. I'll be honest, I didn't play guitar for 7 years. And once I was challenged and I picked it up, now I'm getting a whole band together, and it makes me nervous. I've got to rearrange my whole damn studio because I can't fit everybody in here. It's driving me crazy and driving me sane. So stepping outside our comfort zone, and Marianne, I'm looking forward to where you can let your Dharma be its expression, and you already shared that you're writing. That's something you've got to do. And it's not comfortable for you. Bob, I'm going to suggest you need to do some writing, that it would be good for your soul. You've got a good sense of stuff, and I've always been able to understand everything you read. In college, you were my hero. Now, you wanted to be a hero there. You were my hero because you could write a paper, and I had to sit there and wrestle with the ideas, and we take the same class, and you get an A+, and I get a B+, and I go, what the hell? So our Dharma is the path of truth of who we really are. How do we lay hold of that? My view is if you're going to step out of your comfort zone, please pull on the thread of your Dharma, because Psyche is calling you to. And I'll be honest, if our listeners don't do this, it's like I said, Psyche will let you know. She will rear her head. I think that's what half the traumas in my life have been.
Well, and I think that's so true that, and you talk about willfully stepping out of your comfort zone. If you don't, life will kick you out of your comfort zone. And if you can willfully do it, at least you feel like you have a little bit of control isn't the word, but you have a little bit of direction. You can.
Your intent matters.
Yes. And because there are things that happen that force us out. That happened to me several times throughout my life, especially when it came to those illnesses and where I had to become a person that I didn't really want to be. I had to become an advocate. I had to speak up when I didn't really want to confront people. I had to do those things because of the circumstances that happened in my world. And would I have chosen to do that? Absolutely not. But I grew from it. And to be able to willfully, Carolyn Mace talks about fate versus destiny. And fate is what happens when you don't exert your will. Destiny is what happens when you exert your will and you create your own destiny. And I've always liked that distinction, and I've gone back to it several times. And when I've been contemplating making a change or doing something different, I think, okay, I can direct my destiny. My fate is going to happen if I do nothing. But that's where our free will comes in, and that's where those choices come in. And so it requires stepping into something that we aren't doing currently, which means even if we're miserable, some people are comfortable in their misery because they, right?
Boy, isn't that the truth? What do they say?
Yeah.
Masochists have a plush chamber in hell. One of the things you've both brought out, and that's relevance versus randomness. And I think what you just talked about, was that Marianne Williams? No, Carolyn Mays.
Yeah.
That, when I look at Facebook phenomenologically, they're looking for relevance. They're looking for my life to mean something and how that comes to mean it. And I think the growing edge of that meaning is not in our comfort zone. It is out there. And that doesn't mean we need to jump into something crazy. It just means we need to start poking at it. We need to start exploring it, reflecting on it, and who we are and what our passions are. And I think, Marianne, you said it, you became someone you didn't necessarily want to be. And yet, when you became that, when that expression started coming through you, it touched people. I know it touched me, and I know enough of your history to know how it's touched the people around you and helped give them comfort in a very uncomfortable place. And I'll be honest, as a pastor, that was part of my job, meeting people at their point of discomfort and somehow comforting them. What do they say from the pulpit? A pastor's role is to discomfort the comforted and comfort the discomforted. One woman said, "You were talking about me up there." And I went, "No, I was just throwing shoes, darling. If one fits, you put it on." Because they're shoes that fit me. I can only speak from my own experience. And I think that one of the first pieces for me, or that continues to loop itself, is not taking for granted. Again, this is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful... what the hell? I still go, not just how did this happen, but why? Why do I have all this? And I don't take Edie for granted, and that's a wonderful thing because she's becoming somebody new all the time. Our Spanish together, she's got a story of her brother going to China to get their daughter, and she wants to do it in watercolor. So what does she do? She takes a watercolor class. She's becoming someone new. And I go, son of a bitch, I'm just going to sit back and watch this happen. And when she suggests something to me, I'm going to take her suggestion because she's growing. And she's helped me to grow. And I'm hoping, both of you have helped me to grow. You've helped me to study stuff that doesn't make me comfortable. This week's study was not comfortable. I had to pull out Don Juan, the teachings of Don Juan, and remember, reconnect to the feelings I had when I was young that were so passionate about the teachings. And it wasn't just that. I think of the time I flipped out on LSD. I mean, it was at our apartment, Bob, and everybody I talked to, they said, "I don't want to talk to you, you're making me flip out." So I went in a room by myself and flipped out, if you will. And the next day, I can't remember the guy's name, but he shows up. He was in law school and he quit, and he drove a cab. And he came up with this book called Be Here Now. And he said, "Red Hawk, I got this book for you." It was back then. It was, "Michael, I got this book for you. You need to read it." Boy, talk about synchronicity. Talk about out of my comfort zone. And Bob, we made a damn job out of vocation out of getting out of our comfort zones. You don't do psychedelics and stay in your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think, you said something too that really resonates with me, that it can all be taken away, no matter what it is. And yes, I think we also do need comfort at times. And, as a pastor, you bring comfort and you also move people out of the, it's both. Bob, what's that word? Balance, maybe, finding a little bit of balance. Yeah, in that. And
knowing your own parameters. I think that's it. I've known academicians, the people who live in universities and think in universities. For them, exposing themselves to something outside their intellectual paradigm is a discomfort. Those are real things. I'll be honest, my study this week made me a little, more than a little uncomfortable, but it also made me not take what I have for granted a little bit more. It made me realize that, and I love what Bob said about your home as a Zen garden. I think that's that's true. And right now my Zen garden is a mess, so I'm in the middle of. Edie says I got to clean this up, or I can't have band practice down here because there's a bunch of us. So over and over, I think, as I said earlier, there are as many iterations of comfort zone as there are people, and there are as many iterations of getting out of that comfort zone as there are people. And for me, it might be going to a political rally, and that's not me. But what did Sophie say? I've never met a protest I haven't liked. What did Bo say? I've never met a mud puddle that I didn't want to step in. It gets me out of my place. So that might not be the same. Again, this study got me out of my place this week. It made me reconsider a whole bunch. It also motivated me to want to move things around in my studio so I can fit everybody in here and find a new part of myself, if you will, a part that's been percolating for a while. So I think that the comfort zone, and Marianne, I think you said it, we need comfort. We need it. We have to have it. And, having my own house, that's a comfort to me. Not just the equity, but just a place to come back to every day. That proved a great comfort. Thank you, G.I. Bill. And I also think another thing that you brought up, Marianne, intoned anyway, life is so fragile and it is so resilient. That's always amazed me, that irony, how elastic it is, and yet how totally breakable it is. And I think in the midst of that, and I think you quoted Bob, because Bob's now our balance guy. How do you find that balance? How do you find that balance? I'm not sure I know at this point. But I can say this. We need to probably get our final comments. Bob, final comments?
Well, I think that probably the most important thing, and this is true just about everything we talk about at the deep end, everybody's experience is different. Everybody's comfort zone is unique. And the thing that we all share is the need to step outside of that comfort zone in many different ways and in many different exercises of the will, and having a comfortable place to come back to even after you've stepped out, to reconstitute yourself, to find the energy and the will to move forward, is really important. It's staying in the comfort zone that's the danger.
Amen. Marianne, final comments?
Yeah, I think we need respite, we need comfort, but I also think that we'll grow moss if we stay there, and so intentionally making yourself do something, even if it's something small, that you wouldn't normally do, I think is a great first step. And sometimes we think about those parts of ourselves that we haven't tapped into yet, and because it's not comfortable to tap into that, and intentionally saying, okay, I am going to go and meet someone new today. However you do that, one person. And I think as we start to it's a muscle almost, and we can strengthen it, and we can take one small thing and do one more small thing and then one more small thing. I don't think it has to be anything major or life-shattering or changing, but it can lead to a whole different kind of life that we're living. And that's where I want to go. I want to step into what is the best that I can, what is the best life I can live right now? And I know I'm not living it right now, but I know that there are things that I can do that can lead me there. And it means stepping outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
You can do it too. Yay.
Yeah. And so many of us, stepping outside our comfort zone is stepping outside ourselves. And I've said it before, apple trees do apples, the self does selves. It keeps creating more and more cells. And here's the thing, my friend, this is where we're going next. This is Alfred North Whitehead. Collective enthusiasms, revivals, institutions, churches, rituals, Bibles, codes of behavior are the trappings of religion. Its passing forms. They may be useful or harmful. They may be authoritatively ordained or merely temporary expedients. But the end of religion is beyond all this. How can we be Christians in a global world? Next week we're going to explore that. Now, many of you may not know it, but I'm still a Christian. I don't go to church anymore. I can't. Because they're speaking about a God I don't get anymore, and they don't want to hear about the God I see. And if you want to know what that God is, go to our podcast on God, which is God is a verb. But today something's happened in the world, and the church has a central dilemma. So we're moving into a new world as wineskin, a very powerful image in Scripture. So how do we create this new wine? How do we percolate this new wine? And what is this new wineskin? And how are we to find the holy and the sacred in the midst of it? My friends, my name is Red Hawk. This is The Deep End. And in all things, be blessed and step outside your comfort zone.